Major art theft in Boston overnight. Two thieves posing as police officers overpowered museum guards.
Very dramatically said, "Gentlemen, this is a robbery."
A part of our heritage has been stolen.
This horrible thing occurred in 1990. Everything changed because of that.
Someone on the inside helped the thieves.
From the guys who brought you Missing Maura Murray and Crawl Space.
Empty Frames will be available on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your favorite podcasts on February 6th.
Welcome to Audio Gyan with Kedar Nimkar, a podcast that documents insightful conversations with Indian designers, artists, musicians, writers, thinkers, and creatives of all types. Catch us on iTunes or visit audiogyan.com for more Gyan sessions. Here's your host, Kedar Nimkar.
Today I have Amitabh Kumar with us on Audio Gyan. Amitabh lives and works in Bangalore. He's a designer and an artist and has worked as part of Sarai Media Labs, where he researched and made comics, programmed events, designed books, and co-curated an experimental art space. He's a faculty at Srishti School of Arts and Design and Technology and is initiating member of the Delhi-based comic ensemble, the Pao Collective. He's been painting murals across India for a couple of years, and now today we are here to speak about murals and his work. So thank you, Amitabh, for giving us your time, and it's a pleasure to have you on Audio Gyan.
Absolute pleasure.
Yeah. So the first, I've come up with 5 questions, but the first one is slightly to understand your process and set the context here. Okay. That whatever I've observed and seen your work online, it has got a distinct grungy look. So can you tell us how did you arrive at this process and what's your philosophy behind design and art in general?
I used to draw in a very different style before I started drawing the way I do now. And that style was extremely labor intensive. It was basically hatching, cross hatching and trying to get form through that. Also, it wouldn't really translate well as a print form. Okay. More so as a Xerox print form, which was the easiest form of print translation that I knew. Cheapest as well. So I thought I needed to sort of come up with a style that was rough, that was very heavy, very bold, and that could also take to being reproduced cheaply. Okay. Very, very comfortably. So this very thick pen style, that's how it took shape early in Delhi. Around 2010, 2011, I started sort of experimenting with this really bold style. And initially it was just sort of scribbles and papers. I remember I was drawing metro drawing. So I used to draw passenger sketches while I would be traveling in the metro in Delhi. And I guess that and the speed of it really allowed me, because when you draw, people used to watch. So I think that really shaped the graphic language a little bit more. More so when I started sort of taking this, I had published a few comics with this style, but the irony was that I actually developed it a lot more when I began drawing in public spaces. Because I think scale and distance does something to the way you perceive an image, and line thickness. And for me, I think a lot of it was also from this this compulsion. That or rather this obsession that my lines have to be clean and organic. So there were no hard edges.
Yeah, when you meant scale and distance, is about the object from where you're drawing, or?
No. It's the surface where I'm drawing. When you see walls in public spaces, you perceive an image on them very, very differently as you would do in your phone or in a book or on a page, like that. So I guess from there came the desire to really sort of graphically amplify my own style. Also the treatment, I guess there was a point when I think I was painting in Delhi in 2014 when I realized that because I have a compulsion to have finished, to have a very clean graphic style, so to speak. It was coming across as extremely mechanical. It was almost like a laser cut image.
Okay.
And I felt that it was important to break that clean image by the treatment that I sort of work with. So I was okay with not like with a non-flat surface. I was okay with patches of paint being shown. I was okay with a lot of surface and materiality. And I think that's where certain ideas of grunge come in.
But it was intentional, because you could have evolved the laser cut finish direction also, right?
I did actually.
Yeah.
Because it's so it's such an easy vector image. I did this experiment which was the last time I actually invested in my own art, where I spent some money getting some of this artwork ready for the Indian Art Fair in 2011 or 2012, sorry, where I got my drawings laser cut into four different surfaces, basically into 4 plates in milky acrylic, and got it stuck to clear acrylic. So it was these 4 plates stuck next to each other, literally. And I lit it up with like these really high luminosity LED lamps at the back. So in the screen in the front, you could see shadows essentially, and shadows of different luminosities, and umbra and penumbra happen. And it was definitely poetic to sort of see that, but it like burned my pocket. So I promised I'll never ever sort of be investing in sort of making installation work like that again. But I did try laser cut, and it's fun.
Interesting. Coming to the murals part, like I wanted to slightly dwell more upon this mural and want to also learn personally what goes into a mural. So the first thing regarding that is like you've done like a lot of murals in different cities, right? So can you tell us what exactly a mural is? What is its importance, and how has it, like a sort of a very brief outline, how is it evolved in India, and what are the things?
Well, I wouldn't want to talk about the craft of making murals in public spaces through a historical perspective, because I think that perspective is very easily available everywhere online. I would rather sort of I feel it's an emerging practice right now, where urban professionals like myself, people who are trained in the graphic arts or not trained in the graphic arts, for example. We have a lot of people from the advertising circles sort of also come in and be part of this movement here, where I think it's really trying to be in conversation with a wider public through the graphic image, as opposed to just being in conversation with them in the gallery. And in that lies a lot of potential, because what it does, it's for me personally, I've been trained in an art school. I was showing in galleries before. I come from a very sort of traditional way of sort of working in the art world, and I think making murals is one way for me to really break out of that tradition of being a graphic artist and trying to seek a wider audience. Also, what it does for me, very more importantly, is shift this idea of the artist, because when you talk about the artist, you're always talking about the artist as a creator, someone who creates. Whereas in public spaces, the idea of the creator just doesn't hold, because you're not in control. So you can initiate the life of an image, but you don't create the image, because people can come and do anything with it. The image is continuous. Someone might want to piss on it, someone might spit pan stain on it, the image changes. Someone puts a poster on it, the image changes. So it's really understanding public life and understanding the nature of public life and the relation of the image, not with a certain presence, but with public life itself. So it's been a great learning tool for me personally, and a learning tool that I also continuously work with younger minds in Srishti. And it's an absolute privilege and an honor to really explore what the graphic image in this context, could mean, or the practice of painting graphic images in public spaces could mean, So that's definitely exciting.
Yeah. So you mean when you start, you have visualized something to be drawn, right? But that evolves, or that you have to make sure that it is. Like, I don't know, as you mentioned, spit on it is like, there could be barricades and then...
Why? Then it's just like, it just loses the point. But I think, so there are multiple ways. Couple, initially when we started, because also initially people weren't so sure about it. So even when we were knocking on doors and asking for walls ourselves, you had to show the person whose wall you're asking or requesting them to give you a wall, what you'll be making on it. And then there'll be the standard promise that, even if you don't like it after I've made on it, I'll paint over it with a weather coat, color paint of your choice, so on and so forth. That's how it began. But later, I think it became a lot more flexible. And since I've been painting for some years now, I've had the privilege of really exploring wildly different modes of working. So, for instance, when I was painting again in Delhi in 2014 at the Lodi colony space, I went in with a composition because you had to get it approved by the government. But other than the basic elements, the entire narrative changed, because the way people used to engage with that side change. Okay. So, for example, I had designed the composition differently. Like there was a dog who was spitting fire and whatnot. And then
there's a dog poop also.
So the dog poop example was because people were actually coming there and dogs were pooping in that road. Every day I used to find more and more dog poop. So it became a way to acknowledge sight. Okay. So thereafter, I think the next experiment I tried was just to go with one element and just collect everything through that element. Because see, even when you're painting in public spaces, rather than understand that the act of painting is crystallizing your knowledge about that space, that you have done your research and the research output is a mural, the mural itself could be a way to research. Because while you're painting, you're there. And when you're there, you learn, I feel. So and then I think it's all about how willing you are to intuitively follow the logic of place as it reveals to you. So that becomes very interesting.
Yeah. But do then spaces also contextualize what you're going to draw?
Absolutely. Absolutely. In fact, that is the only craft that me and others like myself have.
Okay.
Because like you yourself said, I've painted across the country. And the one way to legitimize my practice is that what I'm basically doing is trying to sharpen my tools of understanding place. So my practice is to negotiate with place every time. And just going one step ahead of that, I do think that cities have a particular art practice. That art inherently in Bangalore is different than art in Delhi, is different than art in, you can't just clump them up. And I feel as much as the artist marks the city also marks the artist. So because I've worked in different cities, each city is a very different set for me. And that's the practice that I think at least I am part of, where I'm sharpening my tools of understanding place, as opposed to just work in one place and everything I do is like Pina. Or is like only about Bangalore. There are practices like that as well, that are intrinsically city-based or locational-based. I mean, to each their own, I guess.
I think there are like a lot more questions opening up in this, maybe, which I have to articulate further. But moving on, as you mentioned, can you tell us any specific artwork which you created which sort of landed up in a lot of conversation among the people, and how did it evolve into an iconic thing, or like at least like a landmark kind of a thing in that area?
Okay.
And what were the learnings?
I when I read that question, I instinctively knew what I think I'd want to share. This was in 2000 and the early years. It was the first Start festival. Start at that point of time was just a bunch of friends, us, who were trying to create a movement out of what each one of us believed in. And this was in Shahpur Jat. Okay. And once again, because it was the early days, we had solicited a wall ourselves. So I had gone to the owner, of the balcony, on whose balcony I wanted to put the ladder, and I'd gone to the wall owner, convinced two families basically to give me their private property to come and paint in. And I began. Now, at that point of time, I was on a slightly different tangent, and I really wanted to experiment it. And my tangent was that I'll just inhabit public space. I will not make a representative image. Okay. I will not. It does not matter if they understand what I'm painting or not. They'll see something, and maybe the line of questioning is a relationship that the audience have with the image, as opposed to resolution. Ki, ye to aam hai, ya ye to, this is something specific. So I started basically overdrawing. So I would finish one shape, whatever shape that I so fancied at that point of time, and I would draw over it with another color.
Okay.
Like this, I had done about 20 odd layers across 10 days. Okay. And like one day, so the shopkeeper whose balcony I was painting, he was very, very vocal. So one day he got very upset. And he was like, kya? So one day he said, these looks like intestines. And the other day he's like, this looks like Lord Ganesha. Then he's like, what are you trying to prove here? That intestines are are you making Ganesha's intestines? I was like, no. I really wasn't making anything. I would come down and I would tell people that I'm making a cloud, I'm making something amorphous, and I would just have a chat. Finally, on the 9th, I worked like this for 10 days. And after 7 days onwards, every time I used to come back, there would be people waiting for me. They would just to like tell me that what a waste of time this is. I'm wasting their time, my money, their money, and this is pathetic. I am pathetic, and I should just go home. But they never beat me up, and I never stopped coming back. So that was really, really interesting. Finally, on the 9th day, the shopkeeper lost it. I went to buy some cigarettes, and he was like, "Look, what is going on?" And he was upset. I was like, "What happened?" He's like. He pointed something in his shop. What is that? And I said, it's a bar of chocolate. He said, what is that? And I said, it's a packet of chips. And he says, what is that? And I'm like, okay, that's a soap. What are you getting to? They look like soap and chips and stuff. What is that? What is that you painted? What does that look like? And I was like, okay. It was a learning experience for me because in the traditional sense, it was an absolute failure because people had rejected the work. Funnily enough, a lot of paintings that started painted in Shapoorjat got painted over. Mine didn't because it became a landmark. Ki gandi wali drawing se left le lena. Take a right from that ugly drawing. So it's still there, ironically. People have painted around it, but the drawing stays. So I learned the harsh lessons. I learned that I genuinely like people to like what I do. I think it's important that there are positive conversations while I'm, because it was mentally a very harrowing process. Imagine many people running you down every day for a week. You know, I mean, it's got a little intense. So it was great, and I think I hope I continue to take such risks, and I continue to sort of put myself on the line and continuously grow. It gave me a lot of reason to paint after that. And I think as artists, that's basically what we're looking for. We're looking for reasons to do things.
But were you was the reason to paint better or to prove something more? Or
No. The reason was just to take the learnings ahead. And I think that's something that failure in general does for me in specific. It gives me reason to do things right and not stop till you've got it right. So after that, a lot of my work thereafter was very, very representative. It was eye-catching in a very simple way. I mean, it was beautiful and stuff like that. And I think now I've come to a point where I'm beginning to challenge that aesthetics again. So it's an interesting moment. Maybe I should go back to Shapoorjat.
Yeah, sure. And paint the same wall again, maybe. Yeah, the next one actually flows naturally because I'd seen one video of yours where you were collaborating with Neil Schulman, doing...
I wasn't collaborating with Niels. Niels is... No. I was in the same video. I was doing my thing, Niels was doing his thing. But yeah, I'm not even a big fan. I don't like his work, so I'd never collaborate with him.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe so that was the...
It was an NDTV video.
Yeah. So I thought you guys collaborated with together.
No. Not over my dead body. I don't like his work.
Okay. So this question is aligned to that because he crafted a word, I think, called as calligraffiti.
Calligraffiti, yes.
Yeah. So do murals have to tell stories always? Or because now, given your example in this place, when you... It's sort of a abstract painting which you did, abstract mural which you did. So, are there instances where something is drawn very intentionally to move people around, to change society and stuff like that? Or, does a mural have to tell a story?
Not have to. I don't think it has to. And I don't think art...
I mean, predominantly, is it used to tell a story?
In my practice?
Yeah, maybe.
Well... In general, in the general scene that I see around, I see a lot of mixed things happening, which is great. I see obviously it's used for very straightforward communication. It's used in civic matters as well. For example, the work that the Ugly Indian is doing in Bangalore is phenomenal, and they're using the graphic language to sort of really create a code for the city, and their agenda is very clear. It's a functional aspect. They're working more around public psychology than graphic art practice, and it's brilliant, At the same time, if I see the work of someone like Samir Kulavur or an Anpu Varki, which is really their own inquiry, their own artist inquiry in public spaces, I think Anpu's work on the one hand really reaffirms at least my faith in creative practice that should exist only for its own development. You don't owe the world anything as much as the world doesn't owe you anything at all. So, I feel that talking about myself, there was a time when I was rejecting the possibility of a narrative completely, and I was just saying, look, this is 2D. It's a graphic image. That's the reality. Get over it. There is no Mahabharata or Ramayana behind it. It's an image. Like, it doesn't represent anything except ink on wall or a paint on wall. And then I came back to the entire narrative fold, where using narratives really enabled me to construct a richer tapestry of images. So, and currently I'm really enjoying that space. But the narrative isn't for the viewer to read into. The narrative is only supposed to help me create the image. Whether you get the narrative or not, I don't care. I'm not communicating, you see.
Interesting.
So, yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting to know this aspect.
You should definitely talk to Sameer Kulavur.
I've been trying. I'm just dying to get him.
I mean, just seeing his arc as an artist, I'm a huge fan. But his latest work, it's been really, really amazing. Especially Kaiman Mehta wrote something really amazing about it.
In fact, I've tried calling him a bunch of times, and he's either on the scaffolding or like he's just not picking up the phone.
He's a tough one to catch.
Amitabh, I would like to conclude with one last question, which is in the same video you mentioned that there's some importance of, like, I would like to know the importance of initiating the conversation also, as you mentioned some time back as well, with the audience when you draw. So there were a bunch of people whom the cameraman asked that, what do you think how this mural is, what do you think it signifies, and stuff like that. So what is this importance of having a conversation with the people as well?
In my work?
Yes.
I think the conversation with people is what makes the work.
Okay.
And it's essentially, in that sense, it like, as much as Shah Parjat was collaborative, because I think my conversation and my impulse with the community there really pushed me into creating the image that I was. I think it really feeds into the dynamics that you are painting in and around, because so much of it feeds in directly into what you're doing, For example, in Pune, I mean, Pune is one of the most fantastic places to go and paint in, because the people there are very, very interested and absolutely engaged. And they value and they respect your contribution to their city. It's amazing,
Harshvardhan, I think.
Harshvardhan Kadam,
Yes,
so he curates these fantastic Pune art festivals there, Pune Street Art, which is I think is one of the most lovingly and the most beautifully done events there, because he manages to create a public that is an interested public. I mean, as much as the onus is on me to sort of have people interested in my work, I think the onus is on the audience also to be an intelligent one. It goes with any other creative practice, and in general, because the kind of work that we do attracts attention because it's of a certain scale and of a certain visibility. The conversations are fantastic. I mean, it's always been phenomenal, and it's always been a way to sort of, it joins and it bonds you to whoever encounters you at that moment of making that image. So,
But the comments and the reactions are mainly to intellectualize over your art which you have done, or is it to really have a reflective view on what you have done?
I think basically my funda is to make what I do relevant. I mean, it has to be relevant. I'm a little tired of in my own practice as of now, of just chasing the same things I was chasing 5 years ago.
Okay.
So I think in my own evolution, I am seeking a direct relevance and impact with the kind of images that I make. And so currently that is the nature of work that I'm also occupying myself with, where we are trying to sort of create images, or create campaigns rather, that are effective as opposed to just beautiful. So for example, the entire Chickpit mural project, which is in the city market, which is again something where I'm both painting and I have some amount of hand in getting it up together. It is trying to follow the historical narratives of Chickpit, so it needs to have an agenda. There is nothing called a generic public, so you need to have a very carefully calibrated strategy in terms of what is the kind of public that you're going
addressing
to, which contexts, which other contexts have also are about at the same place, like they are trying to understand what their sense of community partnership and building is. I mean, having said that, I think we still haven't really fully explored the use of the medium within the context of working with communities, or within the participatory art context. You can say that it is really community oriented, but at the root of it, I think there is a lot of potential in making it open-ended, in involving communities, not just in a manner of volunteering, but in a manner of really changing what art means, other than just a beautiful image. I think, so that is part of the responsibility that I think me and others like me have, who have been practicing for a while, is to take the practice, because it's an emerging practice. We can do what we want to with it, really. There is, like I said, I would like to detach from the historical connotations of what it means to be painting in public spaces in India. So what are the possibilities that lie ahead? And I think, each one of us, be it Harsh or Anpu or Sameer or, whoever, is really exploring it in their own ways. So
Interesting. So I hate to ask this, but just because you also come from Srishti, like teaching in Srishti, but so last concluding thoughts on if someone has to come into this field of like painting public spaces, any it's a cliche question, but any thoughts on that? I mean, how someone can go about exploring that option?
Yeah, don't feel shy and just paint. Just come out and express yourself, and really don't wait for the right thought to occur. Don't wait for the ethics to be resolved. Even if it's messy, and even if it feels like you need to sort of work out the morals and the ethics of it, because if you really go down thinking down the rabbit hole, it's endless. So if you have the impulse, my advice would be to just go with that impulse and initiate projects. Don't wait for somebody to fund you. Don't wait for somebody to monetize you, or some sugar daddy to come along and say, "Oh, I'm going to make you rich and famous," and stuff like that. But my advice would be just to follow. I mean, it's again like a generic answer to a generic question. It would be to just go out and paint, man. It's that simple.
Wonderful. I think this is a good note to end this. I know there's a lot of things to be uncovered in the whole mural space. I'm planning to do a series of podcasts with like few more.
Yeah, you should.
People.
There are so many storytellers. Harsh's story, Sameer's story, Anpu's story.
Yeah,
it's all really, really interesting.
Yeah. Cool. Thanks once again for giving your time, and it was lovely talking to you.
Absolutely my pleasure. See you.
Yeah,
bye.
Thank you. Bye.
And that's it from today's Gyan session. Catch us on iTunes, Savan, Stitcher, or any podcasting app you use. Do rate us on iTunes and follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Stay tuned for more Gyan on audiogyan.com. Till then, bye.
Major art theft in Boston overnight. 2 thieves posing as police officers overpowered museum guards.
Very dramatically said, "Gentlemen, this is a robbery."
A part of our heritage has been stolen.
This horrible thing occurred in 1990. Everything changed because of that.
Someone on the inside helped the thieves.
From the guys who brought you Missing Maura Murray and Crawl Space.
Empty Frames will be available on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your favorite podcasts on February 6th.